Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and what I do on Wednesdays is I share meditation with you guys, just guiding you in a meditation session and then opening up to any and all questions that you'd like to ask about the path to enlightenment and the teachings of the Buddha. So today we're going to do loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that transforms your mind and rewires it to be able to be loving and kind and eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike that you might have towards other beings. It also helps you to eliminate any negative self-talk that you might have in your mind. Sometimes there's this degrading, diminishing inner dialogue that you're trying to get rid of and you just don't know how. This is the way to do it, through loving kindness meditation. So I'm going to start off with some chanting to ease us into meditation. Then I'll guide you in a short breathing mindfulness meditation session just to kind of get you going and get the mind prepared for the loving kindness meditation. Then we're going to come in with the guidance for a loving kindness meditation. Then we'll go back to breathing mindfulness meditation and back to the chanting. So you'll see how this is structured if you haven't meditated with me before using loving kindness meditation. But if you have, you're very familiar with this structure because I do this every time we're doing loving kindness meditation. So if you like to pull up a cushion, or maybe you like to do lying position or standing position, these are the three positions that work really well for loving kindness meditation: the seated, lying, and standing. And we don't usually do the loving kindness meditation in the walking position because it just doesn't work well there. But the other three work really well: seated, lying, or standing. So if you just take a position that you're comfortable with, I'm going to ease us into meditation with chanting, which you guys are welcome to join along in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance on the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Aphivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho วิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตตาวามนุสนังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath. Either the sound of the breath coming into the nose, or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that the mind moved off the breath, cut that off, let that go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, Cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. When you get to your next out breath, repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all those who have harmed me be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness and the suffering it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, I'd like to welcome all of you guys to our class today, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly. If you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you guys can ask questions about anything you'd like to ask questions about related to the path to enlightenment. You can put that into the Facebook group or the YouTube channel or even Zoom in the comment section. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions you like by just unmuting your mic. So if there's anything that you guys would like to ask questions about meditation or the Eightfold Path, or maybe personal challenges that you're having that you would like to talk through, anything and everything that you guys would like to discuss, you're more than welcome to ask those questions. So it looks like Helena has a question. So go ahead, ma'am, if you'd like to ask your question or questions.
Okay, sorry, Kap.
Sawadee Kap.
So, in an article about female monks in Thailand, there was information that female monks need presence of both male and female ordained practitioners in order to get ordained. And do you know why is that? Because men only need other men, right?
As far as I know, yes. I haven't looked back to the original teachings of the Buddha to see exactly where it says that, but I have no doubt that that's what it says, because there's a lot of people that talk about that. But I have no idea why female needs both males and females. In my opinion, they should only need females, but if the Buddha instituted it, he must have, some reason for why he did this. And I would just need to look closer at what he taught there, because sometimes it's not just the teaching itself, it's the surrounding teachings that kind of help you to be able to understand why it is that he taught the way that he did. But that's my understanding, is that's the way that it is.
Okay, thank you. And then apparently Thailand forbid the ordination of women in 1928. Do you know why?
Yeah, so when Buddhism first came to Thailand 800 to 1200 years ago, it came by Sri Lanka. This is what we think, that it came from Sri Lanka over to Thailand and they crossed over the sea. And when they crossed over the sea, women didn't actually come with the males. You know, it was a long journey, you know, it was over the sea, and, you know, travel wasn't as consistent and stable as it is today. So the women decided not to come. So they've only ever had male ordained practitioners here in Thailand for 800 to 1200 years. So over that period of time, of course, people's minds have craving, desire, attachment. They get attached to things being a certain way. And then when people start talking about changing, or people start actually doing real change, even though they're Buddhist and they should know the universal truth of impermanence, they should know not to crave or have desire. And even though they should know that the Buddha ordained females, why can't we? People's minds oftentimes grab onto things and they're very slow to change. So 20 years ago, the first female ended up getting ordained, and she's down in Bangkok at a temple, and now she's got 300 or 400 female ordained practitioners, which I think is outstanding. And that's slowly growing, and they're getting more and more support in the country. But of course, that 20 years has been very challenging for them, I'm sure, because they're doing something new. And there's so many people that don't want that, right? And they're adverse to that. And they're having a craving, they're having a desire, they're having an attachment to only have males ordained. And this is unfortunate, but that's the way that the human mind works. I didn't know about this law in 1928, but it sounds like there must have been a law that was enacted, and I haven't seen it myself, but I can imagine that people's minds craving and, you know, angry that women would think about ordaining, and then the way that individuals think to solve that problem is to push this situation or push this person away, and they think that that's going to solve the problem, when in reality women need an ordained path, because just like the males have this womb to grow within in order to become this better and better human being, women need that as well. And it's unfortunate if that law still exists. It must not, because there's women who are ordained here in Thailand, but that's part of what people have done. And it's important to understand the difference between what people have done versus what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught that males and females are able to ordain and could ordain, and that's what he did. And then later, you know, people start to kind of modify these things, and that's the unfortunate part of where we are today. But that's why I'm so dedicated to help people to understand what the Buddha actually taught and how to get to enlightenment, because a woman needs that growth and development just like a man does. And this even goes farther, Helena. There's actually some places that teach that women can't get to enlightenment. Some people think that way, and it's just not true. But unfortunately, there's people out there that teach it. There's even people that teach you have to ordain in order to get to enlightenment. And this is just not understanding how the human mind works and what it means to get to enlightenment. That there's nothing about an orange robe or shaving your hair by itself that's going to help you to get to enlightenment, or that's going to make it any better for you. You know, it's more conducive to get to enlightenment by entering into the ordained path. And that was during the lifetime of the Buddha. But nowadays, there's actually many things in the ordained community that I would say hinder somebody from getting to enlightenment. So many of them. And these are some of the things, you know, like men are oftentimes taught that women shouldn't ordain or women can't ordain. Sometimes people are taught as an ordained practitioner not to why to other people, that they should only why ordained practitioners. So basically, they're choosing not to respect others because they think they're above household practitioners. And right away, that's like conceit. And now they're hindered from getting to enlightenment because of that. So there's a lot of this confusion in the world. And the more and more that these teachings are being brought into the world where the people can see what the Buddha actually taught, then they'll know the real teachings and what's actually true. And then they don't believe it, but you can learn it, reflect on it, and practice it and see the truth for yourself. And I know that women can get enlightened because I know enlightened women. I know that household practitioners can get to enlightenment because I know people who are household practitioners that are enlightened. But unfortunately, this isn't a prevailing understanding in the world, and that's because of impermanence, right? People are going to understand things in a different way. But the more and more the true teachings get out there, more and more people can understand true reality, and more people can experience enlightenment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, it looks like
There's
oh, you have another question?
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, since enlightened beings are always well and always content and always have a good day, it makes no sense to wish them like have a good day or be well. So, what phrases could be used instead?
You can say those kind of things because remember, your practice isn't about the other person. Your practice is about your mind. And if you would like to wish somebody well, then wish somebody well. You're not interested in modifying your practice based on somebody else. By the time you get to enlightenment, you have a permanent practice. And that's one of the reasons why your mind is at ease, that you don't have to like practice one way for one culture and another way for another culture and another way for this types of people. You know, people who are maybe rich and wealthy, you function this way, and people who are less wealthy, you practice this way. Like your mind would be obsessively trying to figure all that out in each of these different scenarios, and you practice one way at home and one way at work, and you know, it would just be too much. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you just always are practicing the same all the time. So if you'd like to wish an enlightened being be well or have a nice day or whatever you would like to say it. You know, that's coming from you, that you're having this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And it's not about the other person. It's about your own practice and putting your mind at ease, that you can feel fully comfortable practicing in exactly the same way. No matter what situation you're in, you're going to be functioning in a very similar way. Now, that's not to say that you have canned responses or, you know, like every situation is exactly the same and you do everything exactly the same in every situation. But in terms of like the way you practice, you would like your practice to just be based in wisdom. And what you just shared as something you might say to any individual, not just an enlightened being, but any individual, that's a wise thing to say because you're practicing loving kindness and you're practicing compassion. And then, of course, that's right intention and right speech as well in there as well. So that's wise. And that'll never be unwise, no matter whether someone's enlightened or not.
All right, perfect. And lastly, it would be wise to include Mora and loving kindness meditation, right?
If you have any kind of anger, hatred, or ill will towards this being, definitely. Because remember, this meditation is for your own mind. It's not like you're trying to change Mara, because it's not possible for you to do that. But if in your mind you have anger towards this being, yes, you should include that being in your meditation.
Would it be okay to say the affirmations loud sometimes?
Yeah,
during the loving kindness.
Yeah, there's no harm in doing that. That you could totally do that. What I notice is when the mind's quiet and you're not speaking out loud, it actually is more effective, I think, because you tend to go internal a lot more, and there's not the sound of the affirmations going out loud, but it just focuses internal, and your mind can be quieted and really focused on that affirmation a lot more. But you can do it both ways, and you see for yourself, because what I'm sharing with you is what I know to be the truth, but you need to be able to see that truth for yourself. So if you do loving kindness meditation quietly to yourself for like 3, 4, 5 weeks, see the effect it has, and then do it out loud for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, because you're not really going to know in just one session. So you can do it for multiple weeks and see the difference, and then you'll know the truth for yourself, because what I share with you is what I know is the truth. But remember, I teach you guys never to believe me. Even like the things that you and I were talking about today when we were having lunch, you know, about posting at the temple or standing up and announcing and getting help for various things. I shared with you what I know to be the truth. But if you would like to do it another way, then do it. Like post something on the bulletin board, use the microphone like I mentioned to you, and you can see that, you know, those things that I mentioned to you about including people into the various projects, you'll be able to see for yourself how that works, because I've seen that for myself, and now I know that to be true, and I'm teaching it to you. But if you would like to see the truth and test that, that's where you can totally do those things and see for yourself and see what you experience as a result.
And could this being possibly have different results in questions that are not related to the path of enlightenment itself?
Like the things we were talking about at lunch today?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, there can definitely be different results. That is possible because there'd be different people, right? And that's related to the things that we're talking about today at lunch. But when it comes to like the natural law of karma, like, will you ever experience different results in taking substances that cause heedlessness than I did? No, your mind's still going to be unmindful, heedless. You're still going to experience difficulties making decisions, problems with wealth and money and all these things, like all those things that we talk about with the natural law of karma. It's the same thing, right? If you lied, you'll experience the same unwholesome results. It won't be exactly the same, but it's like these are generally what you're going to experience as a result of lying. This is generally what you're going to experience as a result of stealing, and we can talk about those kinds of things. And the results aren't going to be wholesome that you stole and now all of a sudden you're getting wholesome results. That's not going to happen. But the thing that we were talking about today, for sure, you could experience different results in that, because that's not the natural law of karma. That's just personal experiences based on individual situations.
Okay, understood. And you said I appreciate your patience. So Dave, is he okay? Is he still there?
Yusuf left before we finished meditating, but Julia's here, and Julia has some questions. So thank you for your questions, Helena.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have more? You're getting ready to ask some more?
I was just thinking. Oh, sorry, I forgot right now.
Okay.
Okay.
No worries. If you think about it, just raise your hand again.
Thanks.
Okay, so Julia asked a question. Thank you, Teacher David. What causes anxiety? Sometimes it creeps up on me, or I get tired interacting in large social gatherings. It saps my energy. How do I counteract that? Okay, so anxiety is a discontent feeling, just like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment. All of these feelings are actually caused by the same underlying thing. And I think you know what that is. It's craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning. So if anxiety is like when somebody's around a situation, like it sounds like you in a social situation, you have anxiety, which is essentially like a low-level fear with the mind being shaken up during that experience. And it's always craving, desire, attachment. There's some craving that you have. You might be craving to be alone, and now when the mind is with a large crowd, you have anxiety. So you would like to continue with the breathing mindfulness meditation and the generosity. Anytime you notice this anxiety coming up, you cut it off and let it go. And then you need to put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in, which is occasionally you're going to need to be around large crowds. So there's these proactive things that you do, like breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. Then in the moment, whenever anxiety is arising, you'd like to catch it as a bodily sensation sooner and sooner, realizing you're not going to be able to do that right off the bat as you're first practicing, but you would like to cut it off and let it go as a bodily sensation. Then occasionally, you would like to put the mind in that situation and gradually chip away at this until you can be just as content being alone as you are in large crowds. And I suspect if we talked, I think you would say that you're very comfortable alone perhaps, and you prefer to be alone, or you'd rather be alone. And that's why when you're in a large crowd, the mind doesn't like that. It doesn't like this impermanence. It's craving this permanence to be alone. So that's the way you eliminate it, is through eliminating the cravings, desires, attachments that are producing it. And that's where breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity is coming in. That's where cutting off and letting go at the bodily sensations, anytime discontentedness arising with any discontentedness, and then putting the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in, so you get a chance to trigger that and train the mind to be comfortable and content. If you talk to like a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, they refer to this as exposure therapy, or a therapist, they call it exposure therapy, where you expose the mind to the stimulus that it doesn't particularly care for. And here we just say, put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in. And what this does is this trains the mind to get acclimated to that. And it no longer sees it as impermanence because you've done it enough times that the mind is comfortable in that situation, just as comfortable as it is when you're alone. Because what the unenlightened mind is going to want to do with this lack of wisdom is push this situation away. It's going to say, oh, I don't ever want to be around large crowds, and I'm only going to try to be alone. But that doesn't actually solve the problem, because you can't always be alone, right? There's times where I've gone to cities like New York, and I've been walking down the street, and then you turn the corner and boom, you're in a large crowd. There's some big event going on, which is great because you get to see what's going on and you participate. That's one of the awesome things about a nice big city like that, is you can find yourself in the middle of a concert that you didn't even realize was happening, and boom, there you go, you got a nice concert that you're participating in. So you're not going to be able to get to a point where you never are in large crowds, but that's what the mind's going to tend to think is the solution, is just never go around large crowds. So you would like to put the mind in the situation, because this focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory that we're talking about, and all the other qualities of the enlightened mind, this actually comes from the mind releasing its cravings. When you release the pollution out of the mind, that's where the concentration comes in. That's where the focus is coming in. So if somebody just pushed this out of the way, and then maybe for 10 years they never went around large crowds, their mind is still polluted. It's still holding on to that craving. It's still easily going to be able to be shaken up. And it's also holding on to other things too. So as you start letting go of some of these individual attachments, some of these individual cravings, it makes other ones a lot easier to let go of. So I'm sure you're probably attached to your husband and your children to a certain degree. Those are probably going to be some of the latter ones that your mind lets go of. But it'll never let go of those if it doesn't learn how to let go of these kinds of things. So you would like to tackle these kinds of things. It's kind of like an onion that you like to get rid of the outer layer. That fluffs off really easily on an onion. And then as you get deeper and deeper into the core, it gets more and more challenging. So if you never get rid of these outer layers, you can never get into the core. So you would not be able to ever train your mind to let go of an attachment to your children if you weren't able to let go of these kinds of attachments. So by working on these kinds of things, it'll actually soften up the mind and make it better to be able to then let go of other cravings too. Okay, here's some more from Julia. Thank you, teacher. What about fear before a large presentation? Is this a craving for results? I need to let go of that. It can be. It sounds like for you, yes, that's what you're identifying, because a teacher can point you in a right direction, and we can kind of generally point you in the direction of your cravings, but we can't tell you in all situations exactly what you're craving. And that's where your mindfulness comes in. That's why you're practicing breathing mindfulness meditation, to be able to look inward and be able to see that. So that's one of the things that the mind could be craving results at the end of the presentation. There can also be a certain amount of personal existence view involved with public speaking, that you're clinging to the perception of how you want to be perceived by others, and now clinging to the self-image and the self-identity when you're in this potential situation, or even you're about to be in this situation. The mind can have fear. So you need to look at these kinds of things, and that's an indication for you of what's actually causing the underlying fear that's coming up, because there's some cravings, and it's usually not just one, it's usually multiple things. And again, you would like to do breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity as a gradual, consistent, ongoing training. Anytime those discontent feelings are coming up, you'd like to cut them off as best as possible, understanding that early in your training you're not going to be able to completely cut them off. Then you're going to need to put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in regularly in order to train it to let go. So as you're doing public speaking, this will get more and more comfortable for you. It'll become easier and easier as you do it more frequently. So you just gradually kind of build that up where you get more and more comfortable speaking to groups of people and doing a presentation. Okay, it looks like Helena has more questions. So go ahead, Helena, if you'd like to ask your questions.
Thank you. So I'm telling people in our class in Chiang Mai, in the temple, that potentially some volunteers would be appreciated to edit the videos. is different than asking for what is not given, right?
Yeah, when you're like just making a general announcement, I would like to let everybody know that I'm working on this project to edit videos. If there's anybody who's interested in assisting with this, feel free to let me know. So now you're just putting it out there and they're choosing to come contact you. Where what the Buddha is teaching you is like going to a specific person and putting it on them and saying like, hey, life partner, you're going to Ocean City, Maryland. Bring me this, right? When you go, get me this and get me this and get me that. That's like putting expectations on the person. In this situation, you don't have any expectation that somebody will help you. You're just putting it out there and requesting that if somebody has the interest to do this, then you would be willing to work with them to be able to do this. And this is something that you could do while still practicing the second precept.
Very clear. Mm-hmm. And question for real. What's your opinion, Teacher David, on guided meditations of love and kindness? Because there are some on YouTube.
The guided meditations are good to help you get started, but ultimately you would like to be able to do these by yourself because those guides aren't going to always be there. So if you're using a guided meditation, maybe use it like once and then like do 1 or 2 or 3 without it, and then use it once. And you're doing that just enough to build up your practice where you can totally do it on your own. But depending on how they're doing their meditation, you need to be aware because some people will say like, may you be happy. Some people aren't structuring it in the same way. Some people are playing music in the background of their meditations and all these kinds of things. So oftentimes what I see with guided meditations is it's actually in some cases taking the mind in the opposite direction of enlightenment. Even if they're calling it loving kindness meditation, it might not be structured in the same way. It might not be taught in the same way. Some people teach you that you can change other people through your meditations. So you got to be aware of all those kinds of things. If you're ever curious, you could send me a link and say, hey, can you give me your opinion on this? I will let you know if it's in line with what the Buddha taught or not, but you might come to that conclusion yourself on a lot of these because you're not interested in having a bunch of background music. You're not interested in affirmations that are burdening. You're not interested in saying like, may mom be kind, because that's requiring mom to do something before you'll be loving and kind with her. Mm-hmm. You would like to be able to not judge mom and just allow mom to be mom, and you're trying to arise this loving kindness towards mom without any obligations or judgment of her. So you need to pay a lot of attention to the statements themselves, that they're non-burdening statements, that there's not music, that it's structured in a similar way, and that you're only using those occasionally, just enough to build up your practice that you can be doing it on your own.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, let me just check all of our platforms to see if we have any more questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. So thank you all for joining for today's class. And if you'd like to join for future classes, on Saturday we have our Pali Canon and English study group. On Sundays we have our group learning program, where it's a foundational program to walk you through learning the original teachings of the Buddha in a foundational way and help you really get established on the path to enlightenment. And then this Sunday, I'm going to be starting a retreat Sunday through Friday, which is everything you need to be able to get from the first stage of enlightenment to enlightenment itself here in Chiang Mai. And that's going to be live streamed and recorded. So if you can't attend it live, you're more than welcome to be able to watch the recordings. So thank you all for your interest to learn. And as you have questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much and have a lovely rest of your day. Sawadee Kap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.